All right, I want to thank everyone for coming to our air quality workshop. We have a guest speaker today, and I did send you his bio, and we'll do a couple of housekeeping first. So I'm going to go over our office hours. Our guest speaker is Mr. Christopher Lee, and we'll have Q&A. We also have a mini presentation from me about your posters and any questions or the research questions that you can do to help move your project along. So this semester we've changed our times. If you notice, my times for my office hours are Thursdays from 4 to 7, so that can help accommodate the students, you students who get off of class later, that we can talk about your science projects. Carol's office hours are also a bit later on Tuesdays from 3 to 5. I also want to let you know that if you need to talk to me during the weekend, I'm absolutely available too, more towards the evening time. And now I'd like to present Mr. Christopher Lee, who is a member of the Navajo Nation, originally from Shiprock, New Mexico, and he is the current co-director for the Tribal Air Monitoring Support Center, so TAMS, located in the U.S. EPA National Center for Radiation Field Operations in Las Vegas, Nevada. Woo woo. My dad's likes to go to Vegas a lot. He's also an employee at the University of Arizona Institute for the Tribal Environmental Professionals and has been with TAMS Center since 2009. Prior to him working in the TAMS Center, he worked for a number of tribal environmental programs, primarily in air quality field, including Southern Ute Indian Tribe, the Navajo Nation, the Oglala Lakota, and all the Pueblo Council. And you're going to have to pronounce that for me, Mr. Lee.
Ohkay Owingeh
Village. Mr. Lee has experience in developing and operating air monitoring networks and developing and implementing the Federal Clean Air Act regulation program under tribal authority. Excuse me, I just caught some air in my throat. So with that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Lee and welcome. Let's give some thumbs up, finger snaps for Mr. Lee for being our guest speaker today. Now you have the floor. Let me stop sharing and you are able to share your own screen.
Hey, thank
you. Okay, clap. Let's give a round of applause to Mr. Lee.
Starting up at the end, so I have to start back from the beginning. Okay, guys. Well, first, let me go ahead and just say I'm really appreciative that you guys reached out to me and are asking me to present. I remember basically being in the same situation that I think the majority of you are, being a young student and having tribal professionals speak to me. I was a member of ACES when I was in high school and also in college. And so I think I really got a lot of good information from these. And so again, I'm really appreciative that you guys reached out to me, and hopefully I can share some good information with you all. And it's going to be relevant to things that the future careers that you're going to be working in, and the work that you're going to be doing. So first off, Christopher Lee Kia Ani Nishle Khachini Boshichin the Bethlejin Daishe Torchini Daishinele. I'm a member of the Navajo Nation. And as you can see, I'm a member of the Towering House Clan. My dad's side is Red Street running into water. On my maternal grandfather's side, it's Black Sheep. And on my paternal grandfather's side, it's Bitterwater. So again, I'm from Shiprock, New Mexico originally. And as you can see there, I was born and raised in Shiprock and basically lived my whole grade school and mid school, high school years there in Shiprock. And we graduated from Shiprock High in 1986. I went to different colleges starting off. I actually started off at the University of New Mexico as soon as I graduated in 1986. But I think as what happens with most students, they're not really ready for it yet. And I certainly was one of those people, being a young person from the reservation school. I think for me, it was a whole new world for me to go to and live in a city like Albuquerque and to kind of have all that freedom and to be able to do things. And so obviously school wasn't the first focus for me. So it took some time for me to get my bearings and kind of get myself buckled down. And so as you can see there, I eventually got settled down and went to school at San Juan College in Farmington, New Mexico. And I got a science degree, associate science and general science. And at that time, one of the math and science directors that I was working with, initially I was wanting to focus in either engineering or computer science, and any specific area. And basically what they told me was that, well, because I had taken an abundance of science courses, I had enough credits to graduate with general science. And I asked, well, is that something that would look bad in the future? And basically they just indicated, well, it's not really. I mean, especially at that point, you're able to make changes in the careers and the directions that you're wanting to go. And so they basically said that this is fine and it's not going to look any different than if I were to focus in a specific area such as chemistry or geology and so forth. And so I think the closest science field that I was going to be able to get a specific degree in would have been geology. And but that with the courses being somewhat specialized, they didn't have that option available in the near future. So again, that was the decision that I had made, was all right, let me go in this direction, do general science and decide what I'm going to do next. And that was in 1996. So as you can see, from 86 to 96 is 10 years. So it took me a while to get at least my first 2 years out of the way. And in 1996, fortunately, I had some, again, good mentors, and I was a member of ACES at that time as well. And one of the mentors that I touched base with, he put me in touch with some folks through Northern Arizona University. They had an internship with a National Science Foundation grant project. And the guy was looking for a student. Basically, he was developing software to model environmental situations. And one of those environmental scenarios that they were working on was revolved around coal mining. And so he wanted me to do some research on that. And so that's the work that I did. And I'll go a little bit more into that in my next slide. But so in 96, after I came back from the internship and having that ability to meet folks at NAU, I was able to make that decision to transfer to school over there. And so that's where I ended up getting my Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science with an applied geology emphasis. And that happened in 1999. So again, to give you an idea of where I've been and the work that I've had over the years, I guess. As I mentioned, there was that National Science Grant Foundation internship. And in that internship, I was able to have an opportunity to meet folks with the the Navajo Nation EPA. There was a gentleman by the name of David Kelly. He passed on in I think that same year, 1996. But I was really fortunate to meet this gentleman because way back then in 1996, there weren't a lot of tribal environmental programs that were thinking in the vein of developing regulatory programs. And Mr. Kelly was one of those people to really be pushing that envelope and really getting tribes down that path of developing their own programs and becoming the authority for regulations on tribal lands, because up until that time, the majority of the authority relied in the federal government. So federal EPA really had the authority on tribal lands. And again, that internship allowed me to have some time to meet with Mr. Kelly and to hear of the work that he was doing. And so that was that internship. In 1999, when I was graduating from NAU, one of the credits, two credits that were required for my degree was either an internship or independent research. And so at that time, I was aware of NAU ITEP because of the previous work that I had done with them. And so I went that route of completing an internship, and I went to work at the Ohkay Owingeh Village. Back then it was called the San Juan, Pueblo of San Juan. And I guess what's happened since then is the tribe wanted to be represented by how what they call themselves. And so they utilized their own language and their own words. And I remember at that time, there was a strong aversion to using Pueblo in the name of themselves too. And so that's why, I think that's why the Pueblo is not located in their terminology right now. But I always remember that, and I thought, well, that's cool. I'm really happy that tribes are making that effort to take ownership of the things around them, their lands, how they're represented, their names, and so forth. And certainly that was something that I thought stuck with me. And at this time, I had worked with the tribe as they were beginning work on their air quality grant. They had just received a notice from EPA that they were going to have some grant funding. And so I started work on an emissions inventory. And that's usually one of the first projects that tribes will have to do when they do an assessment of their air quality. It's an accounting of all the emission sources on their tribal or within their reservation boundaries. And so that was some work that I started there, and I worked there for 12 weeks. After that, basically that year, I was still doing my internship for my final degree. And so after I completed that, I was able to graduate in December of 1999. And around that time I had already made contact with a lot of support organizations. And one of those was the All Indian Pueblo Council. And this was really helpful for me. They're really similar, I guess, back then, similar to what ITEP does now, the Institute for Tribal Environmental Professionals. They provided technical support to all the 19 pueblos within the state of New Mexico. And at that time, there was a couple of folks that I touched base there with, Cristela Armijo and Annabelle Allison. And Annabelle is a member of the Navajo Nation as well, originally from Tohatchi. And so from that introduction that I had with them and working with them on that emissions inventory for Ohkay Owingeh, they after my internship was over, they invited me to apply for a position with the All Indian Pueblo Council, and they were located in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So that's where I began my career, and I started working as an environmental scientist, I think is what the title that they had at that time, and also a /QA officer, and QA stands for quality assurance. And so I was really fortunate to be able to get that experience of understanding what quality assurance is all about, because certainly in the field that I work right now, it's really important that when tribes do monitoring projects, that data that they collect is sufficient to be utilized in courts of law, and is scientifically valid. And so assuring the quality is very important. And the EPA as an agency has a real specific process that they follow. And so those are some of the things that I learned while working with the All Indian Pueblo Council. After that, I worked there for about a year. And just to let you all know, I mean, how I make that jump from working in Albuquerque to working for the Oglala Sioux Tribe is I have family up in on the Pine Ridge Reservation, and that's where my stepdad is from, and so I have family out there, and so I did go to live out there for a short bit of time, and while I was there, I ended up providing some technical work for the Water Resources Department, and that was really good work. I was able to really drive out into really remote locations and do a lot of water testing and utilizing different equipment, and so that was really good experience for me. I did that for about 6 months, but eventually I kind of at that time, I guess, got lonely and I wanted to come back home. And so I was really fortunate to be able to find an opening within the Navajo Nation. And that's right there, the Navajo Nation Air Quality Program. I applied for a position and was able to come back and work for the Navajo Nation. And that happened in November of 2000. So I worked for Navajo from 2000 to 2005, and then after 2005, basically toward the end of 2005, I made the switch to working with the Southern Ute Indian Tribe, and basically the same things that I worked on with Navajo Nation. It's really the similar type work that I did with Southern Ute Indian Tribe, and I was there till around 2008. After 2008, I went back to South Dakota, and I was up there for about a year. I worked with the Oglala Lakota College, and there I was their Science, Engineering, Math, Aerospace Academy site director, SEMA site director. And basically what that program did was provide a NASA approved STEM curriculum, and provided that to the elementary and high school there at the high schools within the Pine Ridge Reservation. And so that's the work that I did with OLC. And in 2000, toward the end of 2008, actually, I was made aware of an opening with ITEP and through the TAMS Center, the Tribal Air Monitoring Support Center. And so the time that I was out working with OLC, again, as you can see, a lot of my work is in the environmental field. And I was really always wanting to eventually get back to working with the tribes in their environmental programs. And so this was that opportunity. And so I took that, and basically what this has entailed, though, is much more than just working with an individual tribe. It's really providing support to tribes nationwide, and that's what we do right now, is we provide support to tribes nationwide on their air monitoring projects primarily, but also in the other air quality assessment projects like the emissions inventories, and then also modeling and also policy items, and but mostly on technical support is what we provide our assistance. And so that's my career so far. So I'm going to go and jump on to the next one. And basically, I gave some reading to you all to give you a background on the one of the successes, I guess, that that I had when I was working with the Navajo Nation. The Navajo Nation, as you know, as you are aware, is a very large tribe, and really, I think the land base and the population are really on par with the size of a state and state populations, and there's a lot involved with running an air quality program for the Navajo Nation. And so one of the things that the tribe was working on when I got to working at Navajo in 2000 was a permitting program. And so to give you a little bit of background, in 1994 is when the air program started to do work in that direction of developing a regulatory program. They began by drafting the initial draft of the Navajo Nation Air Pollution Prevention and Control Act, or the Navajo Clean Air Act. It can interchangeable. And this is just the drafts. It wasn't approved until I think in 1999, but so that initially began in 94. So from that time that they got started, and then as I mentioned before, in 1996, I did the internship with NAU. And so I really was able to get in at a real good time to know what, or to be made aware of what the tribes are doing. And this is what Navajo was working on at that time. So in 1999, what they ended up doing was they ended up getting their Air Pollution Prevention and Control Act passed by the council. I thought were you asking a question or something?
Yes, I was. I don't mean to interrupt,
Okay.
but with the tribe, do you do a lot of field work when you're doing assessments?
Yes. Yes. And it really depends again on where the tribes are at with regards to the projects that they work on. So for the Navajo Nation, again, when I started working, they had already done that initial assessment work to identify where they would site air monitors and for what purposes that they wanted to do their sampling. And based upon their quality assurance project plan for their monitoring network, they wanted to monitor in areas that were representative of what the general population was being exposed to. And so they cited monitors in Fort Defiance, in Shiprock, in I think Nazlini was a background site because there's really not any sources out there. And then also there was a site to be planned that was being planned for Crown Point, and then also another one that was being planned for Tuba City area. So that's the groundwork that was done. And so fortunately, again, so when I got into working for Navajo Nation, that work had already been completed. And so a lot of my effort was to set up sites at those chosen locations. And then it was to begin operation of the equipment and then incorporate those monitors into the existing sites that we had. So so let me get back to my what happened with Navajo. So in '99 they passed their Clean Air Act, The Navajo Nation was immediately sued by APS and SRP. These are the owners of the coal-fired power plants at that time, Navajo Generating Station and Four Corners Power Plant. And basically there's covenants within the lease agreements that stipulated that the Navajo Nation would not attempt to regulate those facilities. And so that's why they sued the tribe, and they sued the Navajo Nation court. And so what happened was to prevent any kind of lawsuit from going into litigation and going to court, the tribe and the facility entered into negotiation to develop a mechanism to get through that. And that's what's called a voluntary compliance agreement. So in the meantime, while all that was happening, the Navajo was continuing to develop its work on the permitting program. And so getting back to the question that Natalia asked, and this is my work right here. So in 2000, I was brought into working with the tribe, and I was managing the air monitoring network. And so as I mentioned to Natalia, that was that I was brought in to oversee the maintenance of the monitoring network that we currently had at that time, to locate new sites, and then to set up that equipment, and then to make sure that the data that we were collecting was managed, and then to also start to submit that data to the national databases. The national databases is called the Air Quality System, AQS database. And that's one of the important parts of the monitoring project, is to share your data, because a lot of that data is used in conjunction with other monitoring sites. And so that information helps to identify trends. If there's trends in the data either going up or going down, having that information reported on that database helps people to understand what is happening with regards to the movement of the pollution, and also the meteorology. We have meteorological stations that are part of all of our air monitoring sites when I was working there at Navajo. So we had wind sensors, anemometers, relative humidity, precipitation, and so forth. So all that data was collected, and all that is used in conjunction with your air monitoring data. And back then it was PM10 that we were monitoring, but from my understanding, they added gaseous pollutant monitoring, ozone, I believe, and I think they went from PM10 to PM2.5, and so I think that's what's happening right now. So in 2001, what happened was I was still the monitoring specialist, and in 2001, I ended up assisting our tribal air program with gas pipeline leak in the Red Mesa, Arizona, Aneth, Utah area. And what ended up happening was a pipeline ended up having to be shut in, and the industry uses that term for the pipelines when you have to shut them down. They say the pipeline's been shut in. And what happened was it caused over more than 40 fuel flares to be going simultaneously, and it was burning off a sour natural gas. And I don't know if any of you have ever experienced that, either been to that area or been to an oil and gas field and noticed the odor, where it's really got a strong rotten egg smell. That's what that sour natural gas is. And so that's what was going on Navajo. There was intense field flaring, and a lot of the community was really concerned about what they were being exposed to. And so they requested assistance from Navajo EPA. At that time, we didn't really have the necessary technical expertise to immediately set up the gaseous monitors that I mentioned that Navajo is doing right now. and so we worked with Region 9 from San Francisco, EPA, to help us with setting up monitors and trying to help ensure the people that the levels that they were seeing there weren't being deadly to their community. So that was in August of 2001, and as I was overseeing that work, response to the gas pipeline leak, I was I guess elevated to the program supervisor in the acting position. And at that time, we didn't have a program supervisor. And eventually, basically, because I was able to stand in the fire and not get burned too badly, and they went ahead and gave that position to me. So after that time, that's when I began a lot of taking on a lot more responsibility, more than just air monitoring. It involved compliance enforcement, which was again, Navajo Nation had the coal fire power plants. They had the big coal mine, Peabody. There was a lot of big oil and gas compressors on tribal land. And so there was a need to have a compliance officer to oversee the testing that is done over there. And then if there's any kind of upsets, something's happening that's not right, there needs to be somebody locally who can go and investigate what's going on. So that's what the compliance is. And then this operating permit program, and this is the one that was the really important part. Those major sources of air pollution, what they do on state land and on and throughout the rest of the country is they pay Title V fees for their pollution emissions, and those fees go back into funding the program. And unfortunately, because Navajo Nation did not have their own program, all of this revenue from those fees was going to Region 9, going to EPA, and going to the United States General Fund, and that stuff, all those resources were leaving the Navajo Nation. And so again, that was a big reason why the Navajo Nation wanted to develop its own program to keep those fees to build a program and to protect the tribe. And so that was a big focus of the program. And so in 2001 to 2002, we continued to work on the program development. And it wasn't easy. It was really difficult, actually. There was a lot of obstacles that we hit, a lot of problems with dealing with people that we were working with and supporting the work that we were doing. And it was, again, as I indicated, it was very difficult. And so in winter time of 2002, that's when my staff and myself and there was the Navajo Nation is a little bit unique in when it comes to these permitting or the air quality programs. A lot of tribes don't have big programs. The funding that they have is limited, and so staff-wise, maybe they'll have one, maybe two people, three at the most. It's really rare that you have multiple people within a tribal air program. But at least for Navajo, again, as I indicated before, the size is really land base is huge. The number of sources that we're dealing with was pretty extensive, and so Navajo had about 5-6 people within the program. And in addition to having a lot of people, the staff that worked for the program were all from the tribe, and that's something that you don't see too much, actual tribal staff working for the tribal programs. And so we, based upon the previous work that I had mentioned was done by the late David Kelly and by others, as well as the attorney that wrote that that article that I had you all read, all this came together, and we had some really good guidance on where to go, but the route to do that had not been developed yet. And so that's why there was a lot of problems. And me as the supervisor, I was trying to figure out why we couldn't move to where we needed to be, which was to develop that program and to get that application submitted, and to have all our effort put together. And so after sitting with my staff, we basically came to the conclusion that the main problem was we I guess we didn't ask ourselves the right questions, and it really was who is the program for, who is going to be running the program, who is going to be implementing the program. And then we kind of smiled about that, because it was basically, it's us, we're the tribal people. We're the ones that are going to run the program. We're the ones that are going to be doing the work. And so really it should be us there at that program that make that decision on the path that we go, everything about what we do. It's our decision and up to us. And so I think once we came to that conclusion, it was really good, because we took ownership of what we were doing. It's our program. It's for our people. It's for our land, and that's what really helped. There was times when we bumped heads with our attorney. We had a lot of attorneys that helped us with the program, and so it was good that we basically made that decision, and that really helped with moving forward. We also interacted with other state programs so that they could show us what they do. We had a lot of meetings with EPA, and really had made them aware that they really needed to provide more assistance to us, because again, we were the first. This was the first time a tribe was doing work of this nature. So in 2003, 2004, we finally got ourselves really organized and structured. We knew what it was we were doing, and we figured that we would do our program in steps. And when I say in steps, the ultimate goal really is for the tribe to have the full sole authority based upon the tribal laws. So the tribe is the one that's fully implementing that program. But there's an initial step before that, and that's called delegation, Part 71 delegation. And in this status right here, the tribes have the ability to get additional assistance from EPA. And the authority that we're utilizing is not tribal authority, but it's the federal authority. And but we're still doing all the work. We're still running the program. And so that was the decision that was made. And that was also indicated to us that we could still collect those fees that I was talking about, that the pollution sources have to pay. And so that was the decision that was made at that time. And so once we got all that in line, everything really seemed to fall into place, and we really started to really move. And there's a lot of work that was involved in this. And let me see if I can share another document for you. Okay, you guys can see that, right?
Yes.
Okay, what about that one? The
article?
Okay, it's not the article that I'm showing right now. It's the
Part 71.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so this is just to show you all of the tasks that we were responsible for. Trying to move here, but as you can see, there's a lot of work contained within that, and just a few people that we had working on it. There was myself, one of my staff, his name is Wilson Laughter. There's our tribal EPA director, his name was Stephen Edcity. And then my boss at that time his name was Calvert Curley. So these are all the folks that were working on this, along with our attorney did a lot of good work for us as well. And but there was a lot, and if I could move down, I would show you. It shows more, but let me go ahead and get back to the presentation. Okay, so can you see a presentation?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we got that submitted in 2004, October 15th, and got the approval. I mean, actually, we got the approval then, but we think we submitted it about 2 months prior. And it was a really big, important time that when that happened. I remember that a lot of folks within EPA were really happy to see that a tribe had actually taken on this effort and been able to develop their program. And so I was a real success. And so again, I guess one of the messages I want to get across to all of you, and especially the younger folks, that big thing that I learned was that there were a lot of people that didn't think a tribe could do something like this. Even within our own tribe, I remember talking with an attorney within the Navajo Nation Department of Justice, and when I began my term as the program supervisor, and I started to meet with people on these projects, and one thing that he told me was that he says, "Oh, Chris, yeah, that permitting program, the tribe has been working on that for at least 10 years now, and we'll be lucky if something happens within another 10 years. I don't think we'll get anything done with that." And I always remember that, and I kind of I smiled, and I thought, wow, that's not a good way to, or not a very positive way to think that about the tribal program, you know. And after that was said to me, and it was, I think, 2 years later that this was happening, this signing ceremony. And I remember that same attorney came up to me, and he was kind of embarrassed, and he looked at me and says, hey Chris, you remember when I talked to you and told you about that? And he says, I guess that 10 years happened a lot faster than I thought it would. And so again, what I want to share with you all is that as tribal professionals, I think, and you all will probably be faced with this at some time in your futures, in your careers, or maybe you already have come up against it, of people looking down, or people not having that faith in what it is that you're doing, or the efforts that are ongoing with a program that you're with. And just to know, and that things can happen, and that to really rely on your own knowledge and your own experience. And if you know something that can be done, don't let others tell you otherwise. And I think, again, for us at the Navajo Air Program at that time, I thought that was really significant, and that we had that success. And so I really just, again, want to impart that on you all. Again, knowing that, again, you will eventually face that somewhere along down the lines in the careers that you choose. So again, that was the first time the tribe had received this authority. The Southern Ute Indian Tribe, I went to work for them after about a year after we got the program approval. And the Southern Ute Indian Tribe has a lot of oil and gas operations on their tribal lands. They got air monitoring program as well. And they were really wanting to do the same thing that Navajo had done, which was to be able to issue permits to those oil and gas sources within their tribal lands. And so the experience that I had fit right into what it was they were doing. And so that's, I made that decision to move in that direction and to help that program, help that tribe build that program. And the Southern Ute basically got their approval in 2011, an interim approval. And in 2012, they got full approval of their fully delegated program. And so the program that they're running now is based upon their tribal laws. And so this one is not based upon the federal authority, it's based upon the tribal authority. So that's something that's pretty significant there. Other tribes that are doing things that are similar, and this is some terminology for you all. You'll hear the word TIP a lot, TIPs and SIPs. And a TIP basically is a tribal implementation plan. And it's a really comprehensive plan for maintaining or bringing an area back into compliance with air quality standards. And there are some tribes that have done some of these. Gila River Indian Community is one in near Phoenix. There's the Swinomish tribe in Northwest US, Mohegan tribe on the East Coast. So these are some that are doing those things. There are other projects too, known as Class 1 area designations. And this Class 1 area designation provides the most stringent standards, most stringent requirements for air quality. And there are some tribes that have redelegated their tribal reservations to Class 1. And so the most recent one is the Kalispel tribe. They're located in the state of Washington. And so something for you all to think about, and I bring this up right here because when I was working for Navajo, toward the latter part of the years that I was working there, I became aware of this, and I was really kind of surprised that this was actually a law in the tribal code, the Diné fundamental law, and it's a law that's based on the tribal cultural view, tribal cultural values, the cultural view. And I think this is really significant because right now there's a really uncertain future that's happening because of climate change. For all of you, a lot of you are probably aware of the things that are happening, the changes in our environment. Some areas getting becoming are experiencing droughts. Other areas getting more precipitation than they've ever gotten before. The fluctuations in our climate, the extreme colds and extreme high temperatures are really closely spaced, so it kind of just goes up and down, up and down. And I think our people, our tribal people, have a lot of understanding. Our medicine people, and that knowledge and that information that they have, it's not book learned. It's something that the process to learn it is not very different from doing a PhD, but it's the knowledge that we have. Our cultural and spiritual leaders have a lot of knowledge, and those laws that we live by can really provide a guide for our tribal people to exist by, and that will put us on a good path to existing with it where we come from. And I right now, I know that there's a lot of talk about traditional knowledge, traditional ecological knowledge. And this is something that I think that as tribal people, and especially for you all as a young up and coming tribal professionals, you're going to be faced with this. And I think that it will be you all that will be developing these regulations, or developing this guidance and incorporating this into how our tribes exist. These things they don't have to apply to a state. They don't have to apply to the federal government. It's stuff that's just for our people, for our lands. And because as sovereign entities, as tribal sovereign entities, we have that ability to make those kinds of regulations and to develop those rules for our people based upon our cultural perspective. And this is something that I've been really pushing on and working. Right now, the agency, EPA as an agency, doesn't really understand the terminology, doesn't really understand this whole topic, and that's fine. I mean, I think what they really, the extent that they need to know anything is just to understand that it's something that's real and something that is relevant to the tribes. And the tribes are the ones that can use that information for their purposes and for their needs. And again, as young and up and coming tribal professionals, you will all be the ones to be stepping out into this uncharted territory to develop stuff like this and to work with this and to really bring that way that tribes do things back to the tribes. And so again, that's something that I just want to share with you all. Again, I'm fairly certain that there are some tribes that are thinking in this same direction as well. And again, Navajo is one of the few tribes that really has done something significant like this with that fundamental law. But right now, the environmental laws haven't been worked so that they fit in with that DNF fundamental law yet. And I don't think there's anybody there focusing on that specifically, and it's going to take time. I think right now there's just too much work and not enough staff to really focus on these things. And with that, I want to say thank you. Yeah. And any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Really appreciate your presentation. I've asked the students to come up with at least one question to ask you, but I would like to start out with asking you a question. So would you say that possibly minoring in tribal law, because they need to take so many credits when they come into college to take a few classes in tribal law when they get to university level to help with that segue into tribal cultural awareness and the law?
Actually, that's a really good question. And looking back on my experience, when I went to NAU, they had a class on policy and policy and regulation, but it was really it wasn't good. It didn't really help me as a tribal person to understand like how tribes fit into those like the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, all the environmental laws, and all the knowledge that I have right now and the stuff that I've shared with you has really been obtained on the job. And so to help tribes prepare, I think your question is really good and really relevant, that tribes really would benefit if they took some sort of law course. And again, the information that I share is really unique and specific. And so even the legal professionals that are working in this area don't really have a very good handle on the laws, the environmental laws as they apply to tribes. But certainly I think just getting a basic understanding of law and the environmental laws and what they are. And then certainly when the students start to get more involved in say a tribal environmental program, they'll start to see this stuff. But certainly to prepare them, I think that's a good question, and I think it would be beneficial for them.
Thank you. So I'll open it up to the students, and hopefully they've come up with one question to ask you about either your experience in college, what you needed to do to get to this point in your career, how education and culture affected you when you went away from college, or even to these other states that you've worked with. So I will open it up to the students now to ask those questions.
Do you believe it was all worth it to get to where you are now?
Yeah, thanks for that question. Yeah, I think in everything that I've been through, I've been through a lot of good and a lot of bad too. I mean, I've certainly had my times when bad things have occurred and have really affected things, or my I guess my whatever path I'm on. I would never change anything that I've been through. All of those experiences have made me who I am right now, and I would never want to change that. And so I think for all of you, again, it's you're gonna experience it both same, both good and bad, and everything that you go through is something to add to the what will make you grow. And so I appreciate that question. Thanks.
Christopher,
Yeah,
I have a question. I'm actually
sure.
one of the staff workers, but I have a question for you.
Sure.
According to you, what is the biggest environmental threat today?
I think really, I think climate change. I think the uncertainty of the oncoming changes that are just around the bend. I think back when I got into the field that I am right now, and I was made aware again of these changes that are happening right now. The scientists at that time had all estimated like, well, by this certain time, if we don't make changes, we're not going to be able to turn back, and or the changes that we still have time to make changes, and before anything gets really bad. I think that information that people have stated all along, and I think it's still happening, is that the uncertainties is just that. It's really uncertain. And so I don't think anybody really has a really firm grasp on what those oncoming changes are. But I think again, as tribal people, we have our cultures and our spiritual leaders that can help us with understanding some of those things. And then the science and the mitigation measures, or the adaptation plans that we can develop. Certainly we can do those things, and the technical work that needs to be done. I mean, that's the stuff that as young and up and coming tribal professionals, that's the schooling that you're getting right now, is all the scientific education. Though that can be applied and that can be utilized to help those things. But again, ultimately, I think again, the changes that are going to be happening from climate change, I think, are the things that are the most concerning for me right now.
Thank you.
So we have time for one more question before we go into a mini lesson.
Okay, so I'm gonna call on someone. Let's do Maya. Maya, do you have a question for Christopher?
No, I really liked his presentation though. It was kind of interesting about the Navajo Nation part, because I didn't know that.
Thank you. Yeah,
All right.
I do want to tell you all that if you guys have any questions, and feel free to email me or call me. I mean, I think for me personally, I really appreciate working with the youth, and especially our tribal youth, because again, I was in your same shoes before, and I looked up to tribal professionals who were doing things, and time goes by fast, and now I'm sitting in those people that I looked up to. So I want to offer the same assistance that I was provided and pay that forward. So if you guys have any questions or whatever, by all means, reach out to me, and I'll make time to chat with you or to speak with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. I have one more question. So part of what your message was that I gathered was internship. So how would, I know that ITEP does internships. Does your program do internships for high school students that are going into college? So that in between summer before they go to school, would you recommend them looking for internships now? Do you have any internships available for students that are closer to you? Any of that information?
So what we tend to do with internships, we don't have any specific funding for internships at the TAMS Center, but we do work with Menzel and the internship funding that's available through ITEP. And I know that ITEP has the ability to do specific types of internships if there's high school students that want to do certain things. And certainly, again, if any of your students want to work with air monitoring or something that we can provide some assistance on, I can certainly work with them and speak with Menzel and develop some kind of more specific, I think they're called 2-week short-term internships or something like that. But I'm not certain, but I think that's what it is.
Okay. All righty. Well, thank you so much. Let's give a round of applause, thumbs up to Mr. Lee for coming and presenting to us. So turn off your mics and let's give him a round of applause. Come on.
Woo! Thank you.
Well, thank you. So you're free to stick around for the next session, the next part. We'll give a short 5-minute, 7-minute break if you want to stick around and see what I have planned for the students, or you can go. It's really your decision.
Sure, I'll sit and listen in. I'll just kind of put my camera on off and be on mute.
Okay, sounds good. All right, let's come back at 7 minutes from now? In 7 minutes, let's come back. So what, 5:20?
Natalia, is there anything you need me to do?
No, just sit back and relax.
Okay.
You're good.
I think I might get on a call with Rudy. So
Okay.
I just wanted to check in.
Okay,
Hope all's going good.
it is. We'll talk in a little while.
Okay.
So Bronson, do you want to pause? All right, thank you. Welcome back. So I will be sharing the rest of the slide set with you. And I just need to go on, share screen. All right, so we're almost done. I just kind of wanted to go over just a few questions that maybe, I don't know how far along everyone is in their research poster, and I haven't given a lot of direction except for the sheet that you received in your, either your air, your your wind sensor or your water. So I did create some more questions to help guide you and your research posters. So I put that in the Slack chat. So this is your NASEP possible research question guidelines getting started. So what are some research questions for your scientific investigation? What are some of the interests you have about, sorry, there's a typo, you have about water, air, or sustainability in your community? Frame the question of your, frame the question, the problem in a question. So say there's too much chlorine in the water, or on dusty days, asthma seems to get higher, or it's harder to breathe. And that's when you use your air quality index. Or sustainability. What can we do to sustain energy or solar use in our community, so we're not running up our electric bills in the wintertime? So propose an explanation for the problem that you are investigating, and this will be formulated like a hypothesis. So these questions will help guide you in your poster creation. So here is, and I can put this on Slack too. Here's your question. So what is your main question going to be? So that form will help guide this. What's the background of your information? And because you did the background and those worksheets, you have your hypothesis that you'd be able to put in your dialogue. Your methods, what methods, pictures, and your results, your conclusion and your references. So we need to start scheduling appointments so I can meet with you one-on-one to see how far you are in your projects. So after that, then we need to get your registration done, which Miss Maya is going to be doing for your SARSEF, which is the Southern Arizona Science and Engineering Fair. And so can you hear me? So this is just some information that you'll be having. And Thursdays are the best times, so we can make an appointment. I'll be reaching out to you individually to schedule an appointment for you. And so just be keeping a lookout, and your parents will need to sign your forms, your ISEF forms. Any questions? How is everyone doing on their research project? Yes, Maya.
I was just gonna ask, what kind of presentation board do we need? Can it be like the paper kind, or does it have to be like the trifold kind?
It could be a digital. So what we're going to do is we are going to have it printed off. So it's just this digital format.
Oh, okay. I see. Thank you.
Yeah. So to get the best results for, I don't know what's going on, to get the best results for your science fairs, this is the format that works the best. And remember, use a creative title, because creative titles can just really catch the judge's eyes. Any other questions? Kaloya, Eli? No? Okay, so then I will be making you appointments, and we are, okay, let's see. Yes, it can. But what about Navajo? What is your catchy title? It could say Navajo, but is that Navajo Lake? Is that Navajo Nation? Is that brainstorm? So on the sheet, yes.
I was gonna say mine would be like, so my family has a ranch out in New Mexico. So I was gonna say that our name of our ranch, like in Navajo. Like,
Oh,
if that
that's a
makes
good one.
sense. Yeah, because like it's called we call it Out Home, and it's in Coyote Canyon, but there's another name in Navajo that we also use and explain the area.
That's right.
Oh,
That would be good. And if you need ideas, the second page is mainly a brainstorming activity. You could do it in groups, get a hold of each other, or you can just do it on your own and have 3 different ideas.
Yep.
So, yeah.
No. I work tomorrow too. I work tomorrow too. Yeah.
All right. So if that is it, no
today's my
questions.
Friday.
If there's no questions, then we're good. So let's thank Mr. Lee one more time by claps and snaps. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And if you want to stay on, Mr. Lee, I'll let everyone else go and we can just kind of discuss and do a little debriefing.
Sure.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Have a good weekend and stay safe. Wash your hands and wear your masks.